All right, good.
Here we go.
Well, I finally figured out how to send calendar invites. You would think
Boy.
that would be a skill that I would have had down pat by now. But yeah, so hopefully that should work better for us. Well, this is exciting. This is our biggest showing yet for our mastermind. So we'll get started really quick and just kind of have everyone introduce yourself and what you do. I'll call you out by name. And again, just your name, where you're chatting in from, and generally what you do. And then if you could welcome to give out your domain name, and go ahead and punch in the domain name in the or your website address in the chat window as well. Jeff Brandeis, you're the first person immediately to my right in the chat window. Circle gets the square. I'll let you go first.
Not too much pressure. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff Brandeis. I'm based out of Palm Harbor, Florida, which is near Tampa Bay, not too far from Josh's environment. We do business coaching and business sales training. We help entrepreneurs, small businesses grow their business and improve their sales process and their sales communications.
Yeah, terrific. Thank you, Jeff. Matthew Dunn.
Hi, Matthew Dunn, calling from Bellingham, Washington. I run a startup called Campaign Genius that delivers real-time content in email.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Carol Schultz.
Hi, sorry, I was a little distracted. Carol Schultz, Colorado, vertical elevation. Is that all we needed?
Yeah, sure. What does vertical elevation do?
Town equity and leadership advisory.
Good person to know. Thank you so much, Carol. Blair Koch, how are you?
Very well, thank you, Josh. I'm not too far from Carol in fabulous Denver, Colorado, where we are all bracing for many inches of snow in the next few days.
Or feet.
Or feet, yeah. We've got ranges from 15 inches to 60, so go figure. I am the CEO of the Alternative Board Denver West, or TAB for short, working with business owners, leaders, doing peer advisory boards, business coaching, and all things around that.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Blair. Martin Harshberger, how are you?
Martin Harshberger. I'm in the Memphis area. I work with business owners and CEOs on strategy and execution.
Terrific. And again, feel free to put in your website address. I know yours is real simple, martinharshberger.com.
There you go.
Feel free to type that in the chat window as well, everybody. Lisa, welcome. Lisa Crisal.
Unmute there. Hello, Lisa Crisali in Las Vegas, in Nevada. My husband and I are in business together. I'm a business growth strategist for the health and wellness industry. And we are also systems and agency providers as well for systems.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Lisa. Myrna.
Hi, I'm Myrna Seltzler from Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada, close to the Bellingham Fellow. And I have started a podcast called the MLS Leadership Show that is featuring interviewing real estate brokers and owners of the businesses about their best strategies for attracting and retaining the best people.
Yeah, excellent. You know, I should be asking the question of your podcast and what guests you're looking for. That's the question we should be asking. So actually, if you could, and I apologize if we've already gone through you, if in the chat window, go ahead and again with your website address, say we're looking for guests who do what, and list out your specs on their qualifications, who they should be. So if we happen to know somebody who is a real estate broker that would make a great guest for Myrna, send them her way. And let's see, I got Christopher Dedian, and I mispronounced the last name, I think.
Dedian, close enough.
Okay, all right.
So hello everyone, my name is Christopher Dedian. I am from Montreal, Canada. I am the founder and CEO of Dedian Enterprises, and we are a company that serves entrepreneurs and CEOs alike on peak performance coaching and speaking opportunities.
I love it. Thank you, Christopher. Rebecca Rausch, if you couldn't guess, is a designer. See some of your work in your background.
Yeah, everybody should have one of those. My name is Rebecca Rausch. My company is Neon Lizard Creative Marketing and Design, and We are doing Secrets of Our Success with Josh. We're very excited about that. And we're looking for companies that have been successful so that we can interview them and hear stories and lessons that they learned along the way. And we are a fully comprehensive design firm.
Terrific. I should also thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate that. I should also point out, Elisa, I know is hard at work with our team in updating a page that will actually list out all of the podcasts and the guest. So our agency partners have been asking for this. They're like, Josh, thanks for all the great intros for these different shows that I can send guests to. Do you have a one-page place that can show me all of the, because what a gold mine for a podcast guest. And we let them know, just say, listen, before you book on this podcast, you need to know, we're huge fans of podcasting for networking. And so if you're not open to that, none of these are good shows for you. But yeah, we actually have a page. As soon as that's done, hopefully within the next few days, we'll share that with all of you, just in case you want to look at that and say, hey, I know someone to make a great guest for that, or even if it would make sense for you to be a great guest as well. I know your name is not Audrey, Danny Nessum.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got to change that. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I'm Danny Nessum. This is Molly. She does every podcast and every Zoom call with me. I have a company called A&C Management Group. I'm out of New York, and basically, my company sets up corporate health benefits for companies, mostly between 10 employees to 150 employees, but through something called Professional Employee Organization, which is PEOs. These are major companies who take small and medium businesses and they pull them together and have the ability to give them Fortune 500 benefits. And usually we're looking at 20 to 30% less premiums on the same plans that they buy as a small group. So it's been a wonderful business, and we have a podcast now where we're inviting CEOs of companies to talk about their business model. We're very excited about it, and it's great to meet everybody here.
Yeah, I think, Danny, when you talk to the right person, I think your conversion rate's about 95%. It's a great product.
High. Well, it's a replacement business. Most companies have corporate health benefits. I know Canada's a little different. Actually, my uncle lives in Montreal, and my cousin lives in Toronto. So I have family in Canada. But in the United States, health benefits are very expensive, and this is kind of a way to bring another look to the health benefit business, and it's really taking off, helping employers and employees.
Great, Danny. Thank you so much, Lucho.
Hey, my name is Lucho Crisali. We are in Las Vegas, Nevada. Lisa is my wife, of course. I'm a health and nutrition profitability expert. So we are looking for health and wellness professionals that are six-figure earners that have actually built themselves into a practice that does not survive without them. So now they have no time and freedom for themselves and their families. So we teach them how to add a custom nutrition consulting program to their practice that can be ran by somebody in their office, so they can get their time back and their freedom back and make an extra $10,000 a month per certified individual. We also help them take all the different pieces of software they have that they may be paying for $1,800 a month or so, and bring it all into one place and save them anywhere from $500 to $800 a month.
Thank you so much. Lynn Whitbeck.
Hey, everybody. I'm Lynn. I am the founder and CEO of Petite to Queen and Future Forward Sales. Future Forward Sales is focused on strategic sales development programs. So we provide lunch and learns, workshops, and then full training programs and plotting out and planning all your strategic sales development. So our podcast is Future Forward Sales, and we're really looking for B2B business owners who are ready to pivot and think outside the box and who reject complacency.
All right, excellent. Thanks so much, Lynn. Jonathan Silva.
artist. Hi, Jonathan. Work for American Management Services, small business consulting firm. We basically help small businesses maximize their profits. That's kind of the short version of what we do. And I'm a digital marketer here.
All right. Thank you so much, Jonathan. I appreciate it. Good morning, Catherine Mora. All the way from the other side of the planet, the other corner from me.
And I've just gotten off my 6 and 6:30 a.m. calls from the podcast. So
great.
Yeah, so I am in Brisbane, obviously in Australia. And so I have a business called Change Empire Book Coaching. So we help people write books, non-fiction books. So I'm generally working with coaches and speakers and entrepreneurs who want to really be thought leaders. So we help them from book idea right through to finish beautiful published books. And then now we have Thought Leaders Academy, which actually takes them beyond the book to grow that sort of thought leader status and career that they've been looking for to have that impact, leave a legacy. So yeah, that's what we're doing, which I really love.
Excellent. Excellent. Chris Wilmerding, can you hear us coming in?
Oh, I certainly can. It's Chris Wilmerding of Their Partners. I work with business owners to improve their businesses and their lives. So that's a pretty broad topic, but I'll give you one example. I've had a few phone calls today with business owners who want to do some tax planning, and that's kind of like catnip to them. And it's a lot of fun, you know, given where I've come from in M&A and all that kind of stuff. So I've just been able to steer people toward ways to save millions upon millions of dollars as they prepare eventually for a sale or some kind of transition. And as to podcasts, I co-host Legacy Podcast, where we talk with successful business owners, fast-growing business owners about the legacy that they want to leave the world.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate that. And I see Michael Strada, but I think Michael, you may not. You may be able to hear us. It looks like your audio still says it's connecting. We'll give you. Can we hear you? I don't think so. So if you want to, Michael, if you can hear us, if you want to come back in, I'll make sure that we can intro you. And so we'll keep an eye on that in the participant room. Now, Amanda or Elisa, was there anything that you wanted to bring up before we kind of get in today, guys? I really want to talk about everything follow-up. And so what I want to do is make sure that we have aligned expectations just in terms of like everything that we see, everything we've experienced. And then what I want to make sure that we do is have a lot of time that we can learn from one another, because follow-up is one of those things that is much more art than it's a lot of art, it's a lot of science, and that if we just leave it to whim, I promise you we're going to be pretty disappointed by, things like, being ghosted, not being, it's like, gosh, people are saying they love it and then they don't buy. I don't get it. I don't know what's going on. So we're going to talk about like best practice and everything that we've been learning in terms of follow-up mastery. And then I'd love to make sure that we give everybody the opportunity to kind of talk about what they're experiencing or not experiencing, what they've learned in the past, what things that they've done have really helped, particularly when it comes to, maybe rekindling the dead, and that sort of thing. We'll go through all of that. But again, before we kind of get into the meat, Amanda or Elisa, did you have anything? Amanda says no, and Elisa, Elisa, did you have anything that you wanted to share? No. Okay. All right. All right. One thing I wanted to make sure that I shared before we kind of get going here is, so here is, and I'll even share this on my screen here. So here's currently where I'm at on the B2B sales course. The blue ones are recorded and edited. The purple ones are recorded, and all the rest of these, including the ones that, thank you so much for everybody that has contributed ideas here. just in terms of like, every objection you've ever heard, questions about what to say during a call, before the first call, follow up, all your follow-up questions, and then closing, and then anything else you can think of. If you wouldn't mind, I put the URL in the chat window. Just at any time, feel free to scan through this and see. I don't think Josh has anything scheduled to record on this. I will try to get this done. Like I said, my goal is to get all the videos done by the end of this month. And then Amanda, I want to make I want all of these to reside in Suite Dash, so that's where everybody can access that. So that'll give both you and I goals to make sure that these are available. But this should be incredibly, incredibly helpful. I just chatted with one of our clients, Dana Lindahl, too. And like he shared for himself how valuable it has been to be both on these masterminds and to really kind of study hard on what to say, what to do. Because I can tell you that it's not that difficult to, particularly if you're a solo practitioner, to grow a company and do okay without actually mastering sales. Like sometimes you're just in business and you're really good at what you do, and business just falls in your lap from time to time. And it's enough business to get you up to a pretty comfortable spot. And then, however, it can be that it's not really scalable just in terms of that business that happens to come by virtue of, whatever you're doing, or maybe you're doing content and you're getting some good inbound. So follow-up skills aren't necessarily something that they teach you in high school or, that we've learned in college or we've learned along the way in our profession. And so I think one of the most valuable things that to know is what is normal in follow-up. And I'm gonna share that in just a second. One thing I forgot that I was gonna do is that I want to make sure as well that if there are any wins that you have had, either in our work together or maybe something else sales related over the past 30 days, maybe it's like conversations that you've had. And I'd love to maybe, highlight just a few people. If you have had a win, maybe a great key relationship, maybe a sale, just any kind of thing like that. I want to always never forget this. I'll keep this in my syllabus or whatever for each mastermind call. But I wanted to make sure that I left that I also included that at the very beginning. Is there anybody who has had a great sales experience happen for them over in the past, say 30 days or so, or maybe since even the beginning of the year? If so, you can either click your raise hand or I can visually see Catherine Mora. We'll let you go first if you can unmute yourself. By the way, you have to know that I am actively recruiting for client videos too when I hear these.
Fabulous. So it's related to the follow-up sequence. We are having some issues with our follow-up cadence. We've worked for the last month on it tirelessly, but there were some broken things, which it's a work in progress. But something that did actually work well is that someone who I spoke to, because he'd already written 2 books, I didn't see him as a potential lead. So we have like a lead kind of track, and then we have a referrer track. So if they're not suitable for writing a book because they've already got one or other reasons, they might refer people, right? So I thought he was just going to be a referrer, but because we had the follow-up cadence where we send an email saying, here's a link if anyone wants to, any of your friends want to book a call with me. And then we send a value email with a video about something or other, and then we send another. So we send about 5 emails. He actually booked a call with his business partner and I to talk about their 3rd book, because they actually are thinking they'd like to do Thought Leaders Academy. And he said to me, we've been talking about our book, and he said, and when I got your emails, it reminded me, oh yeah, it's like, I guess he's so busy that I was just one of many people he'd spoken to. And all of a sudden he went, oh, that's right, Catherine helps with that. I'm going to book a call with her. So he booked a 2nd call. And then on that 2nd call, he said he'll book a 3rd call. And he said it was only because of the email reminding him. I mean, he hasn't signed up yet. He's actually on vacation until today, actually. So he hasn't had that 3rd call or signed up, but he's certainly down the track more than anybody else. because of those emails.
Yeah, I love that. So you actually mentioned a few things that I will make sure to touch on. That and actually some of the language that you used, and then again some of the reality of generally what it takes in order for that conversion to happen. So
yeah,
all right, thank you, Catherine. That's awesome. Congratulations. Anybody else have a win? Yes, Christopher.
Yes. So actually, I've been reading the book that you referred to me to read. So the Go Givers Sell More, and it kind of yeah, exactly. And
Look at that. All right, who has it? Who else has it accessible to them?
So yeah, definitely putting some light on the aspect of I come from a sales background. I've always been, and I do think that I have like that mindset of giving massive value. But there definitely is certain things or certain wordage that I use in my closing strategies that I needed to work differently. So yesterday I actually signed a new client, essentially keeping that in mind, and as well did a follow-up with him so he could sign the discovery call with me through the SenseSpark video email, which I definitely see some great value on as well. So I feel like just, in the beginning process of this, but super cool, learning already some stuff, seeing some implementation, and yet yesterday signed a pretty interesting contract with a new client. So excited to offer him some value and get him to where he wants to be within his business and personal life.
So Chris, what did you use? Like what closing word or a couple of words that you used that you found like helpful, just out of curiosity?
So honestly, thank you, Daniel, for that question. Essentially, I'm very structured, and I have a structure when I do my discovery calls of how to approach it, ask them questions, and then afterwards kind of funnel them down to explaining what my process is, and the whole time asking them questions so they could say yes many times before I go to the close. Stuff. And I have like specific questions that kind of, I guess, could seem a bit salesy, but I try to keep it as authentic possible. I've never got anybody telling me, hey, you're trying to sell me. But after the book, I kind of took a step back on really the aspect of just like, okay, just let it flow. And if it'll be, and just more asking questions. So I don't know if that answered your question, but essentially less on the sales side of things, less on the side of like closing the deal right away and just kind of going with the flow as asking a lot more questions. So that's kind of the way that I went about it.
No, that's, I found that when I make the client part of the solution, that they are also almost feeling like they are part of the answer. Well, even though I spoke with them and educated them, I make them participate in saying, this is, I think, what we should do, instead of me saying, this is what we should do. It's pretty funny at the end of the day. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's really great. I didn't realize how smart you are. And it's after the education, I gave them. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm finding, like by including people in the process instead of telling them what to do, it helps. And then if they object, I tell them I know where they live, so whatever happens after that. So
I love that. And essentially that's like indirect leadership, something I've been practicing for a little while. 100%. Just like you try to guide them, but let them figure out themselves. And you don't need to sell them the product. You need to sell the ideology. It's their idea. And they're essentially selling it to you if you're doing that. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Pleasure.
Christopher, can you tell me more about, like you mentioned, like asking questions? Can you maybe share a little bit more about that?
100%. So I already did this. So essentially when a client comes to me and wants to work either with me or one of my coaches, main two questions I ask first and foremost is what's going great in their life, and second question, what's not going very good in their life. And then afterwards I go on the aspect of why did you get on this call with me? What do you want out of this relationship? So I ask them that question and I really specify that aspect. And then once again, this kind of sounds like the sales side, but I clarify this is who I am truly. I choose my clients. So I explained there's three things that I go into, like how I choose my clients. First thing, I'm like, is the conversation, is it flowing, or do we have great energy? Second thing I look at is, do I want to work with this person? And third thing is, can I actually help him? So what he told me, what his solution is or what he wants out of this, I look at, hey, can I actually get him there? And if the answer is yes, beautiful. If the answer is no, I'm going to direct him towards somebody that could help him get there. So those are the questions. And then afterwards, once again, this is kind of NLP. I definitely ask them if they're committed or they're just interested in their success, because I don't want to work with somebody that's interested, especially in the price range that we're at, especially the time that we invest. I really look for somebody that's committed to their success. So that's the questions. And then afterwards, I go into what are my coaching packages or consulting packages, and I let them pick one out of that essentially.
All right, excellent. I love that. Thank you so much, Chris. And by the way, Danny, thank you very much for asking Chris the question.
Yeah, no, it's hold on. Yeah, no, it's actually a great thing because we need to learn more because closing is important. I think that closing is important. I also throw in there like I want to see if you qualify for the program as a company, and like mentally people are like, well, what do you mean? I want to qualify.
Yeah.
So I kind of try to get them that they want to qualify. If they take it or not, they want to see if they actually qualify. Because if you don't qualify, it's not a good thing. So I just try to put it in a positive. Look, I'm going to try to see if you can qualify for the program. They're like, yeah. Try to see if I can qualify for the program. Yeah, I think those are excellent. You got to lead people on, in a positive direction. And like I said, when you empower people that they feel like they're part of the decision, they're more likely to be able to make the decision easier because they feel like it partly comes from them instead of somebody just telling them what to do, and they sometimes can get a little defensive.
Yeah, another thing too, that you chatted or that you mentioned, in terms of qualification. So everybody should have a list, in my opinion, of like the things that you look for in a client or a partner, or however you describe that. Catherine, I'm sure, like as an author coach, you have some very, very specific things that makes a great fit for you. And I think it's really important for us to make sure that the other person knows what that is. For us, I tell people, it's like, listen, for us, culture fit is just number one by a mile. We just don't work with, and then, a part of this is a little bit of like, in our work, it's helpful to create a foil, right? Or, kind of the, what is the enemy that in our work we are kind of working against, right? Or we say, listen, I have a much different philosophy than whatever right there. And so for me, we say, listen, I just don't work with slimy sales funnel kind of people, the broy high five and just customers are numbers kind of thing. And, if that was your mindset, like I could just tell you, like, it's going to be a non-starter. And as soon as I say that and I say it in that way, I kind of smile or whatever, they're like, no, I am definitely not that. Right. And so I like that because what they're doing now, Danny, to what you're like, what they just did in that moment is they're qualifying themselves. So now it's almost like, even though that's kind of a no-brainer. Like, I don't even think we'd be talking like if I felt like, and I probably wouldn't say that if I suspected that they were, but to kind of get them on record to now saying, oh no, that's not me. What they just did now is they qualified themselves by that really simple thing. And then I'll go on and say, and then obviously the math needs to make sense. So high enough value, desire to scale. And then also, for me, authority is a big one. And I just, and I use this opportunity to compliment them. And I say, so for example, like, I've spent some time looking at your social media. My team has, looked at your website and like, and let them know, here's another area where you qualify like this to me. So the way I explain is I say, listen, in terms of like, the boxes that I need to check, like so far, like these look really good, like from my perspective, that might make sense for us to partner in some way. But, but I love that. Lucho and Lisa, I bet you guys have some thoughts on that. I've seen you kind of nodding and smiling.
Yeah, we believe, again, if you help enough people, the sales take care of themselves. So after we explain everything and we ask, well, where would you like to take this phone call from here? They're like, great, I'm going to go implement this, that, and the other. I'd say, well, absolutely. That sounds amazing. So let me ask you a question. How do you do this piece right here? Oh, okay. How do you do this other piece? And they're like, well, I don't know how to do all that. Can you guys help me? Well, the purpose of this call wasn't to sell anything, but if you're asking for some help, we can discuss that.
So, and make sure I understand that. Frame that a little bit better for me, because I'm not sure I tracked with you.
So basically on a sales call, we show them how we have a better plan than they do. And like he said, like Christopher said, we ask them what are the problems they're facing right now in their business, whatever, right? And then we share with them how we have a better plan for that, and we share them the framework of how that plan works. And then they thank us, oh, that's an amazing idea, blah, blah. And they say, well, wonderful. Where would you like to take the call from here? If they say, well, can you help me with that? And then we go into the sales part of what it looks like to work together. If they say they want to go do this on their own, I say, amazing, but let me ask you a couple of questions around that. How would you do this piece? How would you do that piece? So that they come to the conclusion that they don't really know how to put it all together and they need help. So then when they ask for help, I'm not really selling them anything. I'm just obliging with the request for help.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you. All right. And did anybody else have like a win that they wanted to share? And then let's definitely like really dive into follow-up and like what we see working really well in that.
Yes, Josh.
Blair.
Yeah, I just have a comment. It's kind of related to the discussion, but then where you want to go with follow-up. You know, one of the really cool things you can do with your quote unquote content that you can do to get a sales call started, follow on, whatever, is to have tools or pieces where your prospect actually completes them. They're short, 15, 20 minutes, and then you're going to give them a complimentary debrief, a free coaching session, whatever you want to call it. But you're taking them through challenge areas of theirs that they don't know how to solve. And so now you're just having a conversation. You're asking questions. It's definitely not scripted. I mean, you know your stuff. So, you know, and now you're like, you're getting pain and they recognize the pain. They're like, oh yeah, I got a problem with this. I got a problem with that. Great. You know, you're wrapping up, you know what, I'm going to send you some information, how we can tackle this. Boom. I mean, that was kind of a shortcut way, but I found it to be really powerful when I do stuff like that, because then they get value no matter what, whether they work with you or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big fan. Again, you know, kind of going back to Go Giver, right? So, you know, the term I use, I heard one guest say this. He said, you know, it's about being illogically generous, right? And you know, generous to this, like, you know, this is not, I don't normally, you know, it's kind of like the analogy of like, you know, like if I were in the lawn care business, I could tell you how I would clean up. I'd get so much business. I just go door to door and I would just offer to like, I would say, hey, you know, hey, I was just doing your neighbor's yard and I noticed that you had this patch of like crabgrass or whatever. I've got a product. Listen, I'm going to just treat this for free right now. You don't need to hire me or anything like that. Like I'm just a lawn geek. And I would say, and I'll even tell you like what to buy so that the best product, because I test all this stuff and I can tell you exactly what to do. So you could do it yourself, or you could tell, you know, whoever is doing your lawn right now, exactly what they should be doing. And then he's like, and it's come on out here and I'll show you exactly how to do it. And like, how to like, and like, now I get them to spend time with me. They can tell like, well, look, I'm not going to ask them for business, but I'm just there to serve. And I'm just there to, you know, they can obviously see my enthusiasm in the thing that I do. But like if someone did that and I'd be like, okay, first off, how do I hire you? And, you know, cause that's the kind of person I would love to do business with. And so similarly, you know, I think that's, you know, that illogical generosity, you know, to be generous, not in a sense where, you know, you don't want to give a guest or client so much to do that they say, oh, well, now I got to do all this other stuff, or we can't get started until we do this things. You got to be really careful. So it's not that kind of a thing, but it's some other kind of thing where it's just like instant value that you've given them. And it's okay if it discovers a greater need for your product. That's all right. But you don't want to give away a thing that says, oh, well, shoot, now I got to, you know, do my LinkedIn profile before we can ever work together or something like that. You know, so you might give it away something, you know, some sort of good advice or a tip or an intro or something like that. And you say, when we work together, just know that we'll take care of all of that for you. So like if you can give away a thing where it's kind of like a little bit of a taste, but just like, hey, when we start working together, that's completely covered. Like we are going to take, you don't have to worry about that ever again. So, well, welcome, by the way, Ryan and Aya. Aya, I always love that background.
Thanks.
All right. So let's talk about follow-up. All right. So, I would love, I mean, I've seen some, you know, some quotes and some studies or something, you know, that are out there. what do you guess based on your experience? Because you guys are all successful in business. You've all been around. You've been doing what you're doing for quite some time. What would you guess? Maybe on a number of fingers you can hold up. What would you guess? You can put it in the chat window as well. The number of touches it requires by the time you get that billing information. What do you think the number of touches that you think it requires before someone actually gives you the money? This is total touches, right? All right, I'm seeing 8, 5, 6. I saw some 4s, 7s. Yeah, okay, good. Those are all good answers. What I saw, and Elisa, maybe you probably know our numbers pretty well because you kind of observe a lot of our CRM activity. The quote that I saw was 8, and I would hazard to guess that that's a little bit low today. It depends on who you're selling. And again, you know your audience better than I know your audience, but I can speak for our audience. We tend to communicate with very busy people. They're founders, CEOs. They got a lot going on. They're putting out a lot of fires. They are, the tyranny of the urgent. They're taking care of a lot of things. They have other pain points in their business that they're focused on. They likely they've likely overscheduled themselves with way too many responsibilities. And so, it's when if you were to get me on a call and you demonstrate your product to me, and I'd be like, wow, that's actually really cool. Like, I just gave you a buying signal right there. However, I could just tell you based on experience, and I'm sure we've all done this, maybe you've had a conversation with someone and they're demoing their software or something like that. And you're like, wow, this really makes a lot of sense. Like Lisa, you and I just did this with this other, that repurposed solution, right? And so we were looking at it and I looked at it, I was talking to the founder and this was like 4 weeks ago. And I'm like, yeah, this sounds really great. We definitely want to do this. And so 4 weeks later, I still haven't started. And, they really didn't have the best follow. I don't think they had any follow. At least I didn't see any follow up. I still want to do it, but I'm just like really busy doing other stuff. It's not that I don't like the solution. It's not that I didn't like her. It had nothing to do with that. It's just like it kind of fell off the table because it wasn't top of mind. And so when if I were to think about all of the touches, right, and I'll kind of go through and explain like all of the things that we do. And again, these are things that you want to be able to put into your cadences. And again, happy to answer any of those questions. I think we should all have a little bit of fundamental understanding of stages and cadences. But when I add up all of the different touches, Lisa, maybe you can give me your opinion on that, but I'm guessing it's 15 or more on average before someone converts. Like if we include all of the social stuff, which they may or may not see. So when I look at, and kind of the goal, what I see working, and Jeff and Lynn, I haven't asked you guys to chime in on this thing, but here's my belief is that I believe the goal in great follow-up is not, are you ready to buy it? You ready to buy it? Hey, just checking in on you. Like, you don't want to do that. But what we want to do is stack positive associations. And so when our name comes up in front of that guest, how do we want them to respond? Right. And so if you think about times that people have followed up with you, there are some people that you're delighted to see their name. And there are other people who are like, oh, this guy. And so what we don't want to be is, oh, this guy. Right. So because of that, I'm a huge fan of, anytime they get a touch from me, it's a positive experience. It is me bearing gifts. It is me, or Christopher, you had mentioned, asking a question. Like, and so for example, one of our follow-up messages is, hey, was just chatting with, and by the way, this is an email template, right? So I've written it once, and Jenny on my team is responsible for delivering that message on day 5, I believe. Yeah, day 5. So day 5, an email goes out, say, hey, I was just chatting with the team, and then I'll ask them a question about their numbers or their avatar, something like that. And I keep it really short. It should not look like a newsletter. It needs to look like a very personal, like how you would email a friend with a question, right? And if you start putting all of your design stuff in there, it starts to look a little bit more like a newsletter we don't respond to, and maybe something you just sent one to many. Now, I don't fully automate that message in the event that maybe I just had a call with them or they've already communicated that to me somehow. I'm not going to send that message, right? So that's part of the art of this, and the science of it is how can you set up your cadence in a way where you can still adjust a little bit where it's needed, because you don't want people to feel like you're fully automating them. And which is why I'm a big fan of automation process and systems on the back end, not on the front end. Because if you just are putting people into an email drip campaign where it's just the same old, going through all your sales stuff, if I feel like I've gotten a message from someone that's just like that, I'm going to click unsubscribe. I'm going to distance myself from that person. And so I believe with every touch, we're either getting a little bit warmer or we're getting a little bit colder. And so when we evaluate all of our cadence items, you ask yourself, is this moving the needle forward on the relationship, or am I kind of bugging them? Because if I'm bugging them, that's a net negative. And not everything for all people is going to be always a positive. Once in a while, we will absolutely get a message from someone, it's very rare, where they say, whoa, it's a bit much, buddy. And like, I'm okay with that once in a great while. The needs of the many outweigh the what's it? The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one, or something like that. I'm okay with that once in a while. I expect that that's going to be the case based on, like, some people might not want SMSs. Once they tell me once, like, boom, done. Did somebody have some ideas on that, by the way? No? Okay, all good. Sorry, I heard someone clear their throat or something like that. So yeah, so that's the goal. And now we're gonna, I'd really, maybe Lynn or Jeff, if you wanted to chime in on that, just in terms of like generally what the goal is. And then after that, I'd love to kind of dig into brainstorming, and collectively, I bet we can come up with some really good stuff that we could do. And I want everybody, if you could, maybe jot down what are some things that you do in follow-up, and we'll go to each person and have you share, this is something we do. And if we could come up with, 20, 25 ideas of some things, and try to think of something unique that you do that maybe you think, I'm not sure many people do this. I would love to hear, some of those ideas. But Jeff, I see you unmuted. Do you want to share maybe a little bit generally about conceptually on the energy of follow-up and larger principles before we get specific on items?
Well, I think obviously follow-up was always key to the sale process, unequivocally. So it's building that cadence, but I think it's also adding that value of why they should do business with you, and being forthright with some new ideas or concepts. And, you can tell me if I do this wrong, Josh, because I always like to be your straight guy, I always go with, if you need some assistance with some of this, I'd be happy to provide some input. If you'd like to, discuss, feel free to reach out and let me know. If you have questions on any of these topics, I'm available. So it's a way to bring value, also ask them for permission if they wanted to talk, to reach out.
So And here's that's a great way of saying that. The way that I say that, and there's no right or wrong in this, right? Because we all know, like, you know, after you do things so many times, you know what works. You start to hopefully you start to learn what works and doesn't work. So what I will say is I'll say, and by the way, like if you want to tinker with your, because sometimes folks might show up and they don't really have a good high value offer just yet. I say, by the way, if you want to tinker over that on the weekend, and I'll grab some time with you next week, and I'm happy to help out pro bono. If we never end up working together, like it's fine. Like I'm happy to help. Right. So that might be a different way that you could explain that. So, and I use the term pro bono and I let them know like, hey, if we don't end up working together, like it's totally fine. I'm happy to help with that. Like, that's just the kind of cool thing that just business owners who care about other people would totally do that. Is it an investment? Oh, totally. Right. Because that's time that I'm taking away from other activity that I might do. And so they appreciate, you know, that's someone's like, they, you know, most people are going to recognize that that's an investment that I'm willing to make in them, but that's that illogical generosity. Thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate that. Lynn.
My pleasure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add that everything we're talking about is great, but definitely having that follow-up cadence and different methods of following up. My recommendation is to really look at the top 10 questions that your client could have for you and their top 10 objections, and then answer those in different ways so that you have materials that are ready to go. And to your point, Jeff, I've been training myself out of the long emails, and I'm using the SendSpark to take them to a page. So we've been working, you know, on that ourselves so that we can instead just say, hey, here's the link, and you can go there and it gives them information. And because of this specific program, we actually redesigned, you know, how our follow-up was working, because these are people who are coming in as podcast guests.
Right.
So, and that other point, you have different channels. And even the people that we're meeting through these, they may never buy from us, but they may know someone. And you put them into that relationship or referral category. Those are still, those relationships can pay off dividends long term. You just want to put them in a different style of cadence. And then there's other things you can do with SendSpark, especially like a quick tip on how to utilize, how to do something. And then down below, there's a link and it may go to a checklist or something else that they can download and use for themselves, for their business. So it's, once again, you're giving that generosity of value. And you don't want to just use SendSpark. I actually have a place in my cadence where I snail mail things. People respond in so many different ways. And part of our cadence is also actually sending someone, I actually still, I'm ancient dinosaur, I still use GoToMeeting, but I'll send them a GoToMeeting invitation. And that's way down in the cadence. But if they've been absorbing this and it's been that positive curve, then they're going to go, you know what, I'm going to just take this meeting. I'm available then. Or they'll shoot me back, I'm not available at this time, but I can do this time. And that's another, if you mix the methods, that's really important because people respond different ways. And they are, we're all selling to very busy people.
Yeah. And I love, Lynn, what a great segue into, again, the list. So, so let's see, Elisa, what's something that we do that's unique? So one thing we'll do for sure, these are easy things. Like we go into their LinkedIn profile, we endorse them. We leave reviews on their well-written reviews on their LinkedIn profile, which is kind of a template. Oh, don't let me forget to answer, Catherine, I'm going to answer your question because you asked a really good question there.
One of the unique things that we do is Google My Business.
Yes.
We ask for their Google My Business, which most people have not actually heard of. And so it immediately gets them into action mode and going and claiming their business on Google and setting all of that up.
What
so
you
they can
could
get more
do-
reviews.
Yeah, we're dummies. We haven't done this yet. Do what I say, not what I do. But so we, you know, how hard would it be to just put together a step-by-step, like how to claim your Google My Business and how to do it? Put that on a blog article on your own page. Don't send them off to somebody else. I mean, that's nice, but send them to your own website. It doesn't have to be a long, epic blog post, but just like, here's 5 steps. Here's exactly how to claim your Google My Business and how to set up the profile. And, you know, can we, Elisa, can we do that?
Can you guys do that for us so that we don't all need it? 20 of us don't need to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause who did it? I think like HubSpot or one of those, like when I Googled it or something like that, I think I was just giving like a HubSpot article or something like that, which is great for them. That's all part of their whole strategy, just to produce epically valuable content so other people share it on their behalf. But that's an easy one, right? Okay. So yes, Elisa, 7-day deadline for us to someone on our team to put together that quick blog article on, you know, how to, how to create or, create a winning Google My Business profile in like 8 easy steps or something like that. So we'll do that. All right. Thank you, Myrna, for asking. All right. So that's an easy one. And then, so, when you say, hey, that's one of our cadence items. Hey, I was going to leave a positive review on your Google My Business, but I couldn't find it. What's the URL? By the way, if you don't have one, here's an article on exactly how to set it up. It's like free advertising. Like if you're not using Google My Business, that's a layup. That's an easy thing. So that's the kind of thing that's super valuable. It's not going to stall your work in working together, right? So that would be a perfect thing to give away. Just something really, hey, and by the way, I love using the terminology, hey, business owner to business owner, marketer to marketer, I'll tell you like blah, 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 blah. So for example, like when I talk about how much I love, the BombBomb or SendSpark, right? I'm like, hey, business owner to business owner, that was a game changer for me. People love that. Just like helpful tips like that. All right. So let's now go through and share what you do in your follow-up cadence. What's something nice that you have done for a prospect or guest that could be something that, maybe, some of us could work into our cadence. Carol, I'm going to have you go first because you're in the Brady Square next to my right. You would be, let's see, you would be Carol. You would be you'd be the mom. You'd be Carol in the Brady Bunch.
I just started this, so I don't have a whole lot to say. I mean, I have a lot of things I can do for follow-up, but this is the first time I'm doing this program, so I probably don't have a whole lot to say. I had a lot to say on the other things you were talking about, but.
Oh, all right. Good. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot.
It's okay.
How about Chris?
Yes, so a bit in the same lining of what you guys said, sending out like articles or whatever the case is. When I have a discovery call with a potential client and I note down everything that we spoke about, I look at things that I could bring value to them. And usually I wait either a day or two and I send them not through email, but through their socials, an information that could be valuable to them. And an information, as much as possible, I try to do it within the videos that I've created. So if I talk about, hey, I know that the guy talked to me about delegating. I have a video made on my YouTube channel of how to delegate effectively. So I send him a little message. Hey, I remember we spoke about this. I done this video a couple of weeks ago. I think this could be valuable for you. Send it. And I don't only send like my stuff as well. Like imagine if I speak to the guy and he talks to me about like, he's a business owner, but he has a hard time dealing with his masculinity. I'm going to send him a screenshot of, hey, go check out a book called No More Mr. Nice Guy and tell him why he should read it. So kind of just give as much valuable like content as possible that shows him that I'm actually thinking about him in a way to improve him and his business. So then he just sees that, hey, wait a minute, if I hire this dude or his organization to coach me, it's not just one thing. He thinks about me. He wants me to get better. So that's kind of a way that I go about it.
I love that, Chris. That's so good. It's personalized to them. It shows that you care. I absolutely love that. Thank you so much. And I do agree. Like, so when it's not you're not just like, oh, here's this white paper I did on this that has this big sales pitch at the end, right? It's like you're giving them stuff that just, shows that you've been thinking about them. And I will actually use that language, with people too. Hey, I've actually been thinking about something you said, and you begin with that. Like how awesome is that? All right, Blair, any items that you have in your cadence that might be helpful?
I do tons of stuff. probably one of the, I shouldn't say the easiest, but I have almost every month, I do an event, a value add. I bring in guest speakers. Josh is actually speaking later this year. But it's none of the normal how to market better, how to, none of the normal stuff that people come across every day and get slammed with. And so I invite them to the event as my guest. I will send them an engaging piece of content. Depending on what I know about them, I might send them a white paper, but just, I have a really big, robust thing of content. So I'm just personalizing and sending them what resonates best with them.
All right, good deal. Good deal. Martin, any ideas in your, by the way, this doesn't have to be follow-up that you're doing in our specific work together. So anything that you've done in the past that you're like, yeah, this people seem to really appreciate
my answer. I'm new too. So,
yeah.
But as far as in the past, I mean, this is all new to me. I think I explained it before. I ran a fairly good sized company. I had salespeople, sales managers. And by the time I got into it, I had a lot of information about the client, and it was talking about closing and looking for opportunities. So this is completely new to me. So I'm just taking a bunch of notes. I appreciate that. I heard some good ideas.
Yes, for sure. Lisa or Lucho, let you guys. And by the way, if you have to jump off, I understand. We'll probably go just a handful of minutes over.
So since we're in the health, fitness, and nutrition industry, we'll send them things like Harry and David, a basket of pears or fruit or something like that. If there's somebody who's really, really close to becoming a client, or something like a pop socket for their phone, or even just a service where you send a card that's personalized. You can get a picture from their Facebook, like if they have a picture of their dog or something, and put that on a card and send it to them with something funny and a little bubble and stuff like that. So that it shows that, hey, we're actually, doing something specific to you. It's not just send it to everyone, right?
Yeah. So in the book Giftology, right? He's a big fan of like, don't put your logo on it, put their logo on it. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Lisa, did you have anything? Oh, yes. There you are.
He pretty much covered it. Yeah.
All right. Good deal.
We do.
Mr. Silva?
Yeah, so we just started. Well, by just started, I mean we don't have anybody in our cadence. But I think the one thing that I think is kind of unique, we have a book called Profits Aren't Everything. They're the Only Thing. It's written 2010, so 11 years now. My idea as part of the cadence is to send them that book with a handwritten note with their name on it and explain to them why I think this is a good book. But also like, hey, this was written at a time where the economy was collapsing. There's some harsh language in it, but I think you could find some gold in there if you dig a little bit.
Yeah, I love the personalized note with that. If you're going to send a book, because the reality is they're not going to read the book.
Yeah.
Like nobody reads the book. I mean, like if you're lucky if maybe 3% read the book, but it still has value to it. It looks good on the bookshelf. So that's just, and unfortunately, that sounds so harsh, right? But it's just kind of the reality is, as business owners, we just know.
No, yeah, exactly. The one question that I do have is that instead of having Lou, who's going to be the face and voice behind everything, instead of having him sit down and handwrite a ton of notes, I created a font with some handwriting to make it look as though he's writing. I don't know if that's the right way of going about it and having it on a cardstock.
Yeah, it depends, right? So it's, I would say good, better, best. Like if you can take the time, if it's just not possible to do that, it's probably going to be a fraction of the value. If it's clear that, well, they didn't really write this.
Jonathan.
Yeah.
Jonathan.
Who just yelled your name?
Sorry, I'm in the office. Everybody's getting ready to leave, so I think I'm also going to take off.
Understood. Lynn, I know you got some great ideas. We still have a handful of people: Katie, Rebecca, Danny, and who else hasn't? Chris, maybe. Myrna.
Okay, just one of the fun things when I get to know people, I signed up for a Jib Jab account, and I'll send them a Jib Jab because they're so funny. but it's only certain people I can get away with that with.
Right.
I can, mind you, I can get away with about anything I want to get away with. So it
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
sure.
But the jib jab is really funny.
All right, good. Yeah, that's, again, know your audience for sure. Know your own brand. Yes. Thank you. That's great. All right. Anybody else who hasn't got Rebecca or Danny or Lynn? Let's go with Lynn.
Wave my hand. Yeah, no, I want to answer one of the questions too about templating. It's really great to provide and write all those templates. So if even on note cards, you can create little master templates that you know that you're going to want to use. And so you don't have to think fresh. You're trying to get a lot done during the day. Templates are really a great tool, even for handwriting a note card, which is still a wonderful thing to do, is to actually snail mail someone a note card. But those templates can then easily be customized and configured. We've also are in the process of producing a little book, which is a handbook, and it's the 7 Deadly Sins of Sales. Very small, but it's like each of those 7 deadly sins, and it's got a worksheet inside so that people can, and it's going to be a snail mail part of the sales cadence, so that they get the same thing, signed book with the belly band on it, with a little note in there, and then they can actually use it, because once again, it's going to be something that they can just really apply that right then, there, that week, that month, to implement within their company. But all of the different types of methods that can be used, you really want to make sure that you're thinking about that and incorporating that. And you can also do some really funny things over time. Like if there is a specific tool like that, the Spocket thing on your phone or whatever it happens to be, having those go out in a package can be really useful, as well, as if it makes sense and it's not just another something for 4imprint.com, right? It's actually something that makes sense with what you're doing, but it's also going to be useful. I used to do this thing with duct tape, and I had a whole bunch of different colors of duct tape and would send out duct tape. Are they fixing their problem with duct tape, just holding it all together? Or do they really need to, carve out that time, make that commitment to really work through their entire strategic plan, for their sales team? So the duct tape was sort of a funny thing, but everybody can use duct tape. Everybody.
One of the things I did once is I sent out those coins that are gold covered with chocolate in them. And it was about doing a sales management course. Like, look at all the money you'd make if you did the sales management course. Sent out 50 letters to a letter. I phoned the people and I said, did you get the letter? And they all said no. I'm going, what the? And then I say, well, what happened? What about the gold coins, those chocolate covered coins? Oh, that letter, it's sitting right here on top of my desk. So it needed the letter, the piece of information needed a memory peg, like the duct tape. That's what made me think of that.
Yeah.
So, but you must do this while it's still cold, or the chocolates will melt in the letter.
And I think on the litmus test, because, again, you have to be very loyal, honor your brand, right? And
Yes.
So there might be some things that some people are mentioning, like there's a couple things I'm like, I wouldn't.
Yeah, Jib Jab did that to
but
you.
That's okay, right? Because it's brand aligned. But do keep in mind this, right? Is like if you're selling to someone that's like you, if you got that, how would you respond, right? Because some people send me crap in the mail, and it's like, it's like, what am I? You could. That was not a good use, but we don't know. So you have to kind of do your best guess. I like, Chris, what you were talking about in terms of like personalizing whatever it is that you do, right? That's why I love personal notes. I love showing people that you're spending the extra time to personalize it to you. And an answer, Katie, to Kat's question earlier, and Rebecca, you're next, is, does the sales cadence, is it okay to automate some of that where it's fully automated, or is it we do everything personally semi-automated, which means it won't happen automatically without our blessing on that thing? Because the worst thing that can happen, in my opinion, in a sales cadence is someone messages me back and they're like, what are you talking about? We just talked about this yesterday. We have to have some level of intelligence involved in that, and somebody should know and be able to see the notes of everything that's going on and be able to say, whoa, 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 don't send this out, right? And so that requires good team communication. And if you can do that, so our sales manager does a lot of, just kind of running a lot of the CRM in the background. It's 10 hours that she does a week that I don't have to do. And, me being able to reclaim 10 hours a week of my time is huge. Of your time is huge. It takes a little while to kind of set up that formula and give them the right activity to do. You can't just invite somebody in and say, okay, create it. We're likely going to have to be, create the art there of what that is for them to do. But again, to answer, again, Katie, to Kat, if you want to pass that along, we're big fans of semi-automation, but I always, man, I'm real sensitive. I don't want to give that, oh, that was a negative touch. No bad touches, all good touches. So speaking of art, Rebecca.
Well, what I was
You
gonna
have a
suggest-
huge opportunity, by the way.
What do you mean?
Well, in terms of like things that you can give.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, if you have a creative, like if you have any creativity or your brand has anything to do with creativity, this really gives you the opportunity, because art is so meaningful and so valuable, whatever it is, right? Even if it's just something silly, like you designed something on Canva for them, or you created a meme for them,
We'll
as
do
long as
custom
it's,
birthday
as long
cards
as
a
it's
lot of
honors
times,
your
yeah.
brand, right?
hmm One of the other things we do is in our CRM, whenever we do our business meetings, we keep notes on the conversation. And my project manager is usually on the call, and she'll listen to 4 things that are important to them, things that they're passionate about. So I believe I shared with you one other time about a dementia company, a hospital that we were working with. And they commented that the dementia people did not know the difference between a baby doll and a real baby. And so later we ended up sending them a baby doll and some stuffed animals, and she just cried that we had heard that when we were talking. And so little common, just listening for those little moments where you can bless them, I think is really key. So we do a lot of stuff like that, giving to charities and things, such as if they have a child with diabetes or something like that, we'll also do that.
How meaningful is that? Wonderful. Danny, or did we get to everybody on this one? Maybe there was.
I mean, I don't really, again, I haven't done anything yet. I mean, what I have done for clients who have joined me, and especially in the holidays, but I'm actually thinking of doing it because it was such a big hit. There's something called Wicked Good Cupcakes, where you send a link and it comes up, and it's cupcakes in a jar, and you can go on and you could pick sea salt caramel, red velvet cake. I usually send popcorn, but now I'm trying to send it as I'm signing up clients. People are going nuts. First of all, these cupcakes in a jar are absolutely amazing. We got a sample a little while ago. At midnight, I was sneaking into my refrigerator to have a couple of teaspoons. So I knew I was in trouble, but it was unbelievable. The compliments I've been getting, because like if you send 4, then they have their kids go on the screen to pick it. And I got to tell you something, it's probably the best thing I've ever done. So I'm actually thinking the minute I sign up a client, I can do it. I'm trying to figure out is, as I'm talking to the prospect, if I should send it or that's a little too forward, or just wait until I actually sign it and kind of a thank you, appreciate your business.
So I'm a big fan of it. If you are talking with someone that they otherwise have ability and desire to pay, like they're qualified, I will be as generous as,
Okay.
yeah, I don't really spare much expense or effort on that, because, and you also have to look at the value of that.
Yeah,
and so
it's $28 for $10,000 commission a year. It's BS.
Yeah, it's and so just like work that in. And again, we want to be authentic in our gift giving. So as long as you feel like this is an authentic gift and you're not trying to be too salesy about the gift, right? Just like if you're going to give a gift, and don't don't make them feel like there's strings attached to that sort of
Well,
thing.
that's the thing, and
Yeah.
that's where I'm coming in is once you sell the product, it's not an issue.
Yeah. Yeah, right, for sure.
How do you incorporate it
Yes.
into it?
Great. I would send it, hey, just as a thank you for being a guest on our podcast.
Okay, I think I like that.
So
That I
because
like.
because when you give a gift
That I
or
like.
you do anything for anybody, people ask why, what happened, right? And if
right.
you say, like, for example, I've reached out to people to say, listen, as just a thank you for everything that, I was reading your blog and like I've actually read several of your blog articles or watched several of your videos. I've already accumulated a lot of value from that for my business. I've already instituted those ideas just as a thank you, like blah, 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 whatever. Right. And so then that way they feel like, well, I've already paid for that for this thing. And by the way, like, I already created the thing once. So the podcast one's an easy one.
Yeah, the great part about that is it's an email that goes to them. They can have it within an hour, and then they can click the link, and this whole screen pulls up. So it could be a quick thing. It's not like I have to send it by mail or a package. It's more of a link, and you could say, hey, just thank you. I just wanted to thank you for being a guest on our podcast. Here's something for you. Here's something for you and your family to enjoy. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you know what? When they speak then to Samantha, in my case, quote unquote, one of the producers, and we say this is from Dan Ness and Samantha, Josh, and the team, they kind of have a warm feeling when they're having that conversation on their appointment to talk about the other things. I think that could be a great idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. And Lucho said in the chat, and by the way, thank you for everyone who's been in the chat window as well. Lucho says, especially if cupcakes come up in the conversation somehow, it's no brainer. Lynn, you use the example about like we were talking about Mandalorian. You knew that I was a fan of Mandalorian, and just like even if it's just like like someone's a fan of like something, like you probably already know this, but I saw this article and I thought of you. Just sending them an article about something would suffice, but certainly you can send them a gift around that if you wanted to as well. Yeah, Chris.
One thing as well, I'm a huge fan of thank you notes, a bit like you guys mentioned, but one extra touch, and this is really close to my brand. On the thank you note, once everything is done, I put a wax seal. So like back in the day when they used to have wax seals, and what I do, essentially, I have one specifically on my logo, which is like CD. So it just gives like I'm pretty sure nobody in this Zoom has ever opened a wax seal envelope. That just gives a wow effect, gives an old school effect, and it's very much to my brand. So, and it just shows that, hey, you took really the time to do something. And yeah, there's just something food for thought. If it fits within your brand, I've gotten just compliments on it every single time I send a thank you note with a stamp on it. Wax stamp.
Thank you so much, Chris. Appreciate that. All right. Anything else from anybody? Guys, this was very valuable. Thank you so much. So now it's great that you're like, okay, those are all some good ideas. Now is the assignment, right? So now you need to write your, I posted an article. I mentioned it to Katie, but this right here, how to follow up and close the deal. If you don't have this written already, what you want to do is stages and cadences. What's the stage? What's the major thing that you just got done, right? So for us, it's very simple. The podcast is done, first call is done, agreement is done, they've signed up, right? Those are kind of like our four main stages, I think. And I might be messing that up a little bit, but the main ones are had a meeting, they didn't get an agreement yet, versus had a meeting and they have an agreement, because those are two levels of assumption, right? Or two levels of engagement. So the one where they have an agreement, I'm going to be saying different stuff. I'm going to be doing different stuff, as opposed to, yeah, we had a chat, it was positive, but we're not yet at the stage where they're ready for an agreement. So it might just be a little bit more just much softer on, the next steps. And so then for each of those stages, create a list of 30 things that you do. That sounds overwhelming, but for us, and I've gone through this in the video that's on this page that I put in the chat window. You'll see it's a very simple formula. It's basically email, SMS, DM, and then do something nice for them on social, and then repeat it again. And I repeat that like 4 times.
Josh, is this a session recorded in case I want to?
Yes.
I mean, Samantha, she had something that came up, a very wealthy client we scheduled for 4 o'clock, so she couldn't be on.
Yeah.
But she asked me to ask you if she can watch this.
Lisa will know the, Lisa says yes, but when do you think that would be available? Do you think, Elisa?
Oh, I mean, I can pull a copy of the recording as soon as we're done, as soon as it processes.
Yeah, if you want the rough version of it just from Zoom, then you can have that immediately.
Yeah,
Amanda
it takes
also-
about 20 minutes to process, and then I can get you the link.
Yeah, but that could be sent to Samantha Viola.
Yeah,
that would be
that'd be
awesome.
great.
She definitely wanted to hear this, and it was a very good meeting. So
Yeah, thank you so much.
like an AAA meeting, with all the.
All right, good deal. Anything else, anybody? Well, happy Wednesday. And thank you guys so much. Lots of great stuff. Amanda, Lisa, and I are doing a lot of cool development type stuff. So we're really excited for some things that we'll have launched by the end of the month.
Awesome.
So
Thank you.
love
Bye,
the work
everybody.
we get to do with you guys. Thank you so much.
See you.
All right. See you. Bye-bye.